Jeanne MacLeamy, and I'm currently serving on the Novato City Council. Through my many years of experience as an architect, I've learned that a picture speaks 1,000 words. So today, I'd like to share with you some concepts and a vision for the historic Civic Center site in downtown Novato. It preserves the character of Novato, but enhances the Civic Center as a wonderful public venue to enliven and enrich the downtown area. So I'd like to first give you a little bit of history of the Civic Center site and what's transpired over the last 50 years. The city of Novato has never had a vibrant, community-oriented civic center. For years, the staff conducted business in 100-year-old bungalows, the old church, and trailers, sometimes known as roadkill, because they were literally pulled off the side of the freeway. We also had a mushroom farm down in the lower dungeons of the city offices that were moldy and damp. So over 30 years, there have been master plans that were designed for the Civic Center that included offices, but were never approved. Novato continued to kick the can down the road, never maintaining the old buildings, and safety issues finally forced their closure along with the community house. Consequently, the city was forced to move the staff into expensive leased office space, costing our general fund approximately $700,000 a year. The downtown was blighted with boarded up buildings on our Civic Center site. We finally took action by renovating the iconic City Hall for council and public meetings, and by creating a civic green that hosts public gatherings along with Sherman Avenue. With 5 years left on the office lease, the city conducted extensive search for a permanent office space so that we could stop the lease payments needed for vital city services. After this exhaustive search, the council and staff ultimately determined that alternate sites were unsuitable or too expensive. The council then refocused on building fiscally responsible, efficient, flexible office space and parking on our Civic Center site. To pay for this project, one-time money that the redevelopment agency owed the general fund will be leveraged to stop the outflow of ongoing lease payments. So how can a new city office building with parking and the enhancement of the Civic Center site contribute to the vibrancy of the downtown? I believe that even though we're in financial difficulties now, that this will not always be the case, and we need to take a broad, bold view so that we leave a legacy for our children going forward. There's great potential for this Civic Center to enhance the vibrancy of downtown, and I'd like to show you that in my vision of the Civic Center. As context for today's discussion, let's look at the Civic Center in context with the downtown. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. First, we'll start with yesterday. In the 70s and 80s, the Civic Center had the City Hall and Community House in use. The city had a growing need for more office space, so the city purchased neighboring houses, and 90 staff were housed in 9 buildings and 2 old trailers. Over 30 years, the city considered 3 office schemes. First was the Taj Mahal scheme in the 1980s. The plan was to save the City Hall and Community House, but destroy all the other old buildings. New offices of 40,000 square feet, plus parking from Machen all the way to Reichert, were to be built. Sherman Avenue was going to be closed to traffic. The scheme caused great public outcry, so the project was stopped through a voter initiative. The next scheme was to save everything. The pendulum had swung the other way. All old buildings were to be restored for offices. 2 new office buildings and a parking garage were to be built. Staff was going to be in 9 separate buildings. This was rejected due to inefficiencies. Later came the single office building scheme in 2005. That would keep the City Hall, the Community House, and the other old buildings, including one new office building. There would be some surface parking on the site, but this single building scheme was eventually rejected as inefficient and too costly. Finally, the City Hall was restored. Everyone agreed that the icon of the city of Novato needed to be saved. It became the new home for the City Council and a new public venue, from jazz to receptions. The new City Green also created a wonderful outdoor gathering place. Let's now look at the Civic Center today. The city property on this picture is outlined in red. You see the police building, the Civic Center bounded by Machen and Sherman, and the two bungalows across Sherman Avenue. The various buildings that are on the Civic Center site in the old downtown are the City Hall, which has been restored, the Community House, which is closed, the Scott House, which is the old Park and Rec building, is closed, the Simmons House is closed, the Hainan House is closed and shuttered. Now let's look at the current parking situation. In the area of the old downtown where the Civic Center site is located, we have a current parking of 110 spaces. They were adequate in the past for 90 city staff plus users of the community house. Future parking, we can get approximately 116 parking spaces just through a more efficient layout. And that includes Machen, the on-site parking, and Sherman Avenue. I also wanted to show you a diagram of the city use of parking in that area and on the Civic Center site, which would be 36% of the usage, but the rest of the time the parking could be used by the community, and that's weekends and all during the week in the evenings and partly on Fridays. So let me review some of the parking lot options that we have. Parking and the solution of parking is a major component of the design of the offices on this Civic Center site. So we analyzed the probable cost of various types of parking on the site. Surface parking will cost about $20,000 per space. A parking garage would cost about $40,000 per space. And underground parking costs a whopping $60,000 per space. And that is why the council ultimately decided not to go with underground parking. So let's get into more detail about the city offices on this site. The office building itself would be above the parking, but the new office lobby would be accessed off the city green and could be a nice venue to complement any activity on the city green. And the lobby would also contain public toilet facilities for those using the green. So the new city offices then would be approximately 21,000 square feet to meet the needs of the city staff now and into the future. The 2 floors of offices would be located above the surface parking. The other aspect of the new offices is that it would not be higher than the roof of the community house, both of which are lower than the roof of the city hall. A new city office building on this site does not preclude many other amazing things from happening on this Civic Center site. One of the things that's possible is to expand the existing community house, or if the community decides to replicate the community house footprint can be enlarged to increase the size of the kitchen, the capacity of the main auditorium to approximately 300 people, and also provide accessibility for the disabled. Also possible with this scheme and vision is to extend the current brick Civic Plaza. We've seen in many occasions that it's a wonderful outside venue for activities along with the green, and it can be extended to meet the expanded space of the community house as well as expanded to serve the new city office building. Another concept that has been talked about for many years and the full council supports is the enhancement of Sherman Avenue so that it's similar to Grant Avenue. Tree-lined for a very pedestrian walkway and low traffic way, and also special paving perhaps if we can afford it, and new street lamps and furniture. As you know, Sherman Avenue is often closed off for special events and used in conjunction with the city green. Another component that we might add to Sherman Avenue is special ornamental gates that would close it off from DeLong to really enhance Sherman Avenue as a gathering place when not being used for traffic and parking. Finally, I would propose that we move two of the bungalows. First, we would move the Hainan House back to its existing old foundation location, and then move the Scott House, the old Park and Rec building, across to where the Hainan House currently is. What that does is free up the city green and allows it to be expanded. So this is the complete Civic Center vision, which has restored, of course, the City Hall. It allows for the construction of a new office building. It has design aspects that can mitigate its size. And of course, it would be designed in the character of the other historic buildings. It allows for the expansion of the community house, the expansion of the civic green, and of course, the enhancement of Sherman Avenue and the preservation of the old bungalows. So one other concept to remember for our historic downtown is that historic places and public spaces define the character of a town. And that, I believe, is true for our charming city of Novato.